everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learning with Human Kinetics. My name is Aaron, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that should interest everyone, regardless of where you are in your fitness journey, your sports career or development. And this could even relate to areas outside of fitness or strength training. We're going to talk about goals and goal setting. Now, I know this is being recorded in February, and many of you probably set goals in late December or early January. If you did, that's great, and I hope everything is going well with those goals. But maybe you set goals, but things aren't going so well, or at least like you thought they might. Or maybe you're in the camp that you set goals, an end goal of something that you want to accomplish, whether that is a certain amount of fat loss or muscle gain, or maybe you want to run a 5K or half marathon or marathon this year. Maybe you have very specific goals you want to accomplish as it relates to sports. But did you lay out a plan to get to those goals? If not, you might feel a little lost. And the intention today is to help you learn some of those concepts and strategies to help you reach your goals. Now, Yogi Berra is famous for his confusing quotes, but he is credited for one about goals that makes a lot of sense. He said, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. Now, that is so true, and maybe some of you can relate. It's cool and maybe even motivating to say something like, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to bench press my body weight, or I want to make the starting lineup of my basketball team. That's the start of setting a goal. In those cases, you have identified your goal, and that is rarely the problem, to be honest. The problem with most goals is that there's a clear end result that you want, but there's no direction to follow it up or to guide you in a way that'll help you get there. Think of it this way. Say I want to get from Chicago to Orlando. I have a clear goal. I want to get from one city in northern Illinois to a different city in central Florida, but how will I get there? Will I fly? If I do fly, will I take a non-stop flight, or will I stop at a different location along the way with a layover? Maybe I'll decide to drive. Road trips are fun, right? But what path will I take? Now, Google Maps says from Chicago to Orlando is about a 17.5-hour drive. I could head south, go through, Indianapolis, Louisville, Nashville, Atlanta on my way there, but that isn't the only way. Now, the point is, I need some sort of direction. Otherwise, I'd be driving around aimlessly around the country, not knowing for sure where I'm going. Now, when talking about goals, there are a couple of ways to look at them. We look at goals subjectively, and when we do that, we can set goals in more general terms. For example, a subjective goal for competing in a race might be, I want to do well. If you're a youth athlete, you might set a subjective goal of, I want to have fun. Now, those are subjective goals where you are the only one that can really assess the outcome. If you want to do well in a race, your version of doing well as a beginner might be different than that of a professional runner wanting to do well. Similarly, if you say that you want to have fun, you might lose the game but still have fun, whereas someone else on your team will only define fun in terms of their experience after winning. Objective goals, on the other hand, are much more specific. For example, you could set a very specific weight loss goal that you want to hit within a specific amount of time. Or maybe you want to cut time off of your 5K. In that case, your goal is to run your next race faster than you did before. That would be an objective goal. Now, we can get much more specific than subjective and objective goals. And there's three specific types that you should consider when setting your goals. The first is an outcome goal. Now, outcome goals typically focus on results of an event. This could be winning a race, earning a medal, or winning a game. And these goals are definitely goals that can be accomplished, but you don't always have full control over them, and that's really important to keep in mind when setting an outcome goal. The reason is that sometimes outcome goals are out of your control. For example, if your goal is to win a race, you might PR by 10 seconds and run the best race of your life. But if someone is faster than you that day, you won't meet your goal. And that isn't your fault. You did everything possible to win the race. There was just someone faster than you that day who had the same outcome goal as you to win the race. Another example might be to win a game. Again, you can train and practice and feel fully prepared going into the game. But if your opponent is more skilled, or maybe a couple of calls go their way instead of yours, you might not hit your outcome goal of winning the game. Having said all that, you should definitely still use outcome goals. You can use them as motivation or a target you want to hit. Just keep in mind that in the end, outcome goals might be out of your control. Now, the second type of goal is a performance goal. Performance goals focus on hitting specific standards or objectives that can be independent of your competition. Using the example of the race, you can set a goal of running a mile in 6 minutes, 30 seconds. That's a performance goal that you can train for and hit. And it's independent of your competition. If you're facing tough competition and get beat by a couple of seconds and finish second, you might not meet your outcome goal of winning the race, but you still accomplish your performance goal by finishing in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Another example might be if you're a basketball player and you set a performance goal of shooting 80% from the free throw line. Regardless of the outcome of the game or the season, you are in control of shooting your free throws and can still meet your performance goal of shooting 80%. Maybe you're a tennis player and set a goal of hitting 85% of your first serves. Now, ultimately, you are in control of making sure that your serves are in. It's completely independent of the play of your opponent. Now, the third type of goal is a process goal. A process goal is more in line with the actions that you have to take in order to perform well. For example, you might have an outcome goal of winning a race, a performance goal of hitting a very specific time, and the process goal would be remembering to, say, control your breathing or reminding yourself to kick at a certain point in the race to finish strong. Just like the other two types of goals, it's possible to accomplish your process goal independent of any other goals. For example, if the competition is really tough and you don't win the race, you might not accomplish your outcome goal of coming in first place. Say maybe the wind is particularly strong and you're slowed down and don't hit your target time exactly for your performance goal, but you remember to do everything else well and accomplish your process goal as far as maintaining your breathing, keeping great form throughout the race, remembering to kick at just the right time to give yourself the best chance possible to finish the race strong. Now, as I just laid out, there are 3 specific ways you can set goals. You can do them individually or in combination with each other. Depending on your situation, you can initially set a process goal without setting a performance or outcome goal, but it's generally best to set all 3 goals. And the reason is behavior change. Now, typically when someone sets a goal, it's because they want to improve or they want to change certain bad habits that they might have. By setting all 3, your outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals, you're giving yourself a better opportunity to change your behavior and improve toward your bigger picture goals. Now, of the 3, performance and process goals are important because you can get very specific with them. And if you're an athlete, you can still achieve those goals regardless of how well your opponent performs. If the goal is more specific to weight loss or strength training, it's good to have an outcome goal for the purpose of motivation. Now, I've covered quite a bit already, but we're going to go a step further. When you're ready to set your goals, make sure they are SMARTs. A lot of you have probably heard the acronym SMART, S-M-A-R-T, but I'm going to add another component to it at the end. So if you're familiar with those SMART goals, you know that the first S stands for specific. Your goals should be very specific and represent exactly what you want to accomplish. Whether it's an outcome goal or performance goal, be as specific as possible so that you have some direction and a targeted intent. Following the acronym, we'll go to M. M stands for measurable. Like I talked about with performance goals, you want to be able to measure your progress or success. If you're a high jumper, for example, on your track and field team, you want to set a goal of a certain height that you want to jump. If you typically jump 5 feet, maybe your goal by the end of the season is to jump 5 feet 5 inches. You're making the goal measurable by wanting to increase your best jump by 5 inches. You can measure that. So if you're going for weight loss, I guess you might set a goal of, say, losing 10 pounds in the next month. That would be a very specific, measurable goal that you can track. Now, goals should also be action-oriented or indicate something that needs to be done, and this is where the A comes in SMART. These are specific actions that you need to achieve to accomplish your initial goal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So we have SMA. So for R, goals should be realistic. For example, if your max bench press is 135 pounds, your goal shouldn't be to lift 325 pounds within a month. Now, I've always taken the approach to never say never, but a 190 pound increase in 3 to 4 weeks isn't always very realistic. Now, a more realistic goal might be to increase your bench press by 20 pounds safely in that time frame. So now if you're keeping up with the acronym, we have SMAR. So the next would be T, and that stands for timely. Make sure you're giving yourself a reasonable amount of time. Going with the previous example, it's certainly possible to increase your bench press by 190 pounds, but look at your previous progress in your training age and experience to help determine what a reasonable time frame should be to hit your goal. Now remember I said I was adding an additional component to the SMART acronym. This one is another S for self-determined. If you're working with a trainer or mentor or friend that is helping you establish your goals, make sure that they're not doing it independent of you. Make sure that you have the input in your goals. Don't let someone set goals for you necessarily. Your goals should be self-determined. You should have input because no one knows better than yourself what you're capable of doing and what you really want to accomplish. Now, when you're setting goals, there are some factors that need to be taken into account. It's crucial to focus on assessing your abilities and needs. If you don't know what your needs are, you won't be able to accurately assess what your goals should be in terms of working towards improvement. It's also important to assess your abilities. For example, if you have fitness-related goals and your abilities won't allow you to realistically meet your goals in that time frame, your goals are likely unrealistic. If you've never been able to do a pull-up, you wouldn't realistically set a goal of doing 30 pull-ups within a week. Now, that isn't saying that you'll never be able to do 30 pull-ups, but based on your current abilities, 30 pull-ups in a short amount of time isn't a realistic goal. Finding a good strategy for accomplishing your goal is also important. Goals are not effective unless they are tied to specific and realistic strategies. When goal setting fails, it's usually because all of the time is focused on identifying your goals, but specific strategies aren't set in place in order to achieve those goals. Now, unless you have had considerable experience in setting goals, it's also better to set one goal at a time. This will let you focus on accomplishing that specific goal. When that one is achieved, then you can set new goals and keep progressing forward. Now that brings me to the final factor, which is reevaluation. Goal setting won't always be perfect. Excuse me. You might set a goal and then have a setback. So say you're in the middle of race training and suffer an injury. Your goal of running a half marathon in 2 months might no longer be realistic. That's when you reevaluate where you are in the process, in your training, and how long the setback might last, and adjust your goals. Your initial goal at that point might be simply to return to training. And once you return to training, you can then adjust your goal to maybe completing a 5K, and eventually working your way back to training for that half marathon. Another example might be in the case of weight loss. If your initial goal was to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, but you lose 10 pounds pretty fast because you're committed to your diet and your training plan, you can then readjust your goal to, say, losing a total of 10 pounds or 15 pounds in that same time frame. Modifying and reestablishing goals are a normal part of the process and are a healthy and necessary part of the process. Now, regardless of what your goals are, make sure that you are establishing whether they are subjective or objective. Most of the times they're going to be objective goals where you can be really specific. Now, once you have clarified your objective goals, set specific outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals. By establishing all three, you'll be more likely to stay on track. If you're struggling, remember that performance goals can be viewed as more specific outcome goals. If you have a goal of winning a race, set a specific time that you want to finish that race. Outcome goals can sometimes be out of your control, so even if you don't meet those outcome goals, you can still achieve your performance goals. And among the most important concepts of goal setting, make them SMARTs. Remember, that wasn't an error. Remember, there's an S on the end of the SMART acronym. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, timely, and self-determined. So if you're on the fence about setting goals, or maybe you had set goals at the beginning of the year and they weren't specific enough to maintain your motivation, I hope this helped. Just remember to keep things basic. Your goals can be very specific, but keep the process simple and realistic. You can always adjust your goals. If you have a setback, evaluate and readjust your goals to something more realistic for your situation. If you're moving pretty fast on your goals, readjust and set new goals to get even further in your journey. I hope all of this helped you today and gave you a little bit more to think about as far as goals and goal setting. For more tips and information on this and similar topics, don't forget to sign up for our newsletters and keep up with current and past episodes of Learning with Human Kinetics by subscribing to our YouTube channel. For additional content, check out our various social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and always find the latest research in our Human Kinetics journals. So thanks again for joining me to learn a little bit more about goals and goal setting, and best wishes on staying on track and achieving all the goals you set.